And welcome to yet another exciting episode of Skeptics and Seekers. I'm your host, David the Skeptic, and I'm joined by my cohort partner in crime, David Russell. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good, buddy, man. What's going on? How you been?
Never better.
Yeah,
Never better.
is the workload slowing down a little bit?
Not at all.
I hear you, man.
No, I should be finished with this project that has eaten up my soul for the last few
You
weeks. I
have a
should be
soul. I'm
finishing
glad
it.
I'm glad we're getting somewhere with you.
Yeah, you bet. Let's probably by Tuesday. And so that's gonna be a relief. I will probably tell my boss to take the next job and shove it. Um, I need a week off, although I would take a couple of days. But yeah, I'm okay. I'm managing. I sleep a solid 3 hours a night, not necessarily in a row.
Nice. Gotcha. Gotcha.
So
Yeah, with the newborn, I'm there with you, buddy. So
yeah. So today we're going to be talking about. Let me. I'm sorry. If I seem a little unorganized, it's only because I am. Christianity, a private faith or a public crusade? I often talk about Christianity as a private faith. Before I jump into this, people, I already know that there are some audio issues here. I know that this is not the normal Skeptics and Seekers Towers that you're seeing here. This is the best that I could do today and probably for the next couple of weeks until things get back settled again. So, jumping right into this, Christianity, a private faith or a public crusade? Question mark. So I talk to a lot of Christians, as I have all of my life. For most of my life, I was one of the Christians, and since then I've been fairly activistic, and so I think that's a word, activistic. And so I've talked to a lot of Christians about this sort of thing, and I get mixed results. So let me just start from when I was a Christian. When I was a Christian, I would have rejected, utterly rejected, the nonsense notion that Christianity was and should be a private faith. That didn't make any sense to me at any level, and I'll talk a little bit about why. However, I've encountered a lot of Christians who do somewhat accept and embrace the idea that Christianity is a private faith. And so that's a very interesting dichotomy. I just wanted to explore this question a little bit. So we're not going to talk too long today. Both Russell and I have a lot of things to do in our real lives. And so I just wanted to kick this idea around a little bit. Personally, I wish Christianity was a private faith. I often get questions from Christians either on discussion boards or on very rare occasions in real life when I bother to engage with Christians for any length of time. I get the question of, why are you here? Why are you doing this? Why don't you just go away? Why are you bothering us? Why don't you just let us believe what we want to in peace? Shut the hell up and get out. Is the sentiment there? And honestly, it's a question that doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. So, other than my activism online, you wouldn't know that I was an atheist in my regular life. It's not like I knock on doors spreading the good news of atheism. It's not like I leave pamphlets on the bus spreading the good news of atheism. It's not like I just start up fake conversations with strangers so that I can share with them the joys of atheism. This never happens. Even when people try to engage me in religious conversation, I usually brush it off as quickly and politely as possible. I have no desire to engage in this. And so why don't I shut up and go away? The real question is to the Christian, why don't you shut up and go away? Because all of the response that I'm doing is, in fact, a response to what you are doing. And so the real question is, why do you find the need to bother me? What are you doing here? Why don't you just go and believe what you want to believe? I have no problem with you believing things. It doesn't bother me. I don't care what you believe. I never tapped you on the shoulder and asked what you believed. And so it seems to me that it's the Christian that's really pushing this agenda, enforcing responses from the atheists. And they're happy to have those responses until they start losing the argument. And then they turn to, well, why are you even doing this? Why don't you just go away? So I have no respect for that idea at all. But that said, read the blog. I'll talk a little bit about what I've written. Russell will talk a little bit about why he disagrees with what I've written, and we will jump into the conversation after Russell has a chance to say whatever it is he has to say. Let's get on with it, Russell.
All right, man. So yeah, I read your blog a couple of days ago, and honestly, I forgot a lot about it. I just kind of went through the eyes and out the ears type thing, and yeah. So this is going to be fun. I'm going to be winging it just like you are. So we're going to just have fun with it.
I
But
read the blog like 30 seconds before we started.
I remember I remember the theme of there's one aspect I think we can get out of the way first, and that's that we'll agree on the aspect that, and I know you get a lot of mixed reviews on this, but Christianity is a public faith. So, I mean, you said it all throughout the blog, I think, where you talked about, they do have a commission to go out and make disciples, this and that. And we agree on that. I don't think it is a private faith. Whoever I don't think has actually probably read the New Testament, and which you accuse a lot of these people of, that they don't know their Bibles, that you atheists know their Bibles better than they do at times. And that's true. There are a lot that are like that. I mean, especially with the scriptural literacy rate of like over 80% in the churches these days. So, I mean, there is that aspect. But I did want to share one thing, and I'm going to share my screen here, okay? And this is kind of where we'll probably start to disagree. But this is an atheist as well that agrees with us, and you know who this guy is. This is Teller, our Penn Jillette.
And I've always
Can you hear it?
said, that
Yes.
I don't respect people who don't proselytize. I don't respect that at all. If you believe that there's a heaven and hell, and people could be going to hell or not getting eternal life or whatever, and you think that, well, it's not really worth telling them this because it would make it socially awkward. And atheists who think that people shouldn't proselytize, just leave me alone, keep your religion to yourself. How much do you have to hate somebody to not proselytize? How much do you have to hate somebody to believe that everlasting life is possible and not tell them that? I mean, if I believed beyond a shadow of a doubt that a truck was coming at you and you didn't believe it, that truck was bearing down on you, there's a certain point where I tackle you. And this is more important than that. And I've always thought that, and I've written about that, and I've thought of it conceptually. This guy was a really good guy. He was polite.
But I think you get the drift there.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the way I look at it right there. Let me just stop sharing this. Yeah, that's kind of the way I look at it, as well. Christians are commanded to make disciples, and in that I think we can go from there. And you
Okay.
can yell at me if you want and disagree with Juliet there.
I'm going to try to do very little yelling today.
Yeah, because you're gonna hurt my head, and then I will shut up and go away like you asked.
We're both going to shut up and go away probably a lot sooner than the audience wants us to, but it's gonna be that kind of.
Well, yeah, because I still got to
So,
go to Jurassic Park up in the nation's capital today. And
okay.
that's not a drive I'm looking forward to.
Okay.
They have this little thing called Jurassic Quest. It's a
Mhm.
drive-through, and you drive through, and they got these very life-size dinosaur robots walking around and moving.
I heard
Yeah. My son, he's a big fan of Jurassic Park and dinosaurs and stuff. So, other than that, what did you think about Penn's statement there?
Well, so before I get there, I will just say I took my wife to the
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
show Jurassic World.
Ah.
And so that's a stage show with big dinosaurs and animatronics and things like that. And so
Awesome.
yeah, fun show. So I'm with you. Thumbs up with that. Yeah, I think that Penn has is right from a certain perspective.
Hmm.
So this he's right when you make certain assumptions, but I don't think his thought process goes far enough. And let me be very clear about this. I like Pendulette. I've read his some of his books. He's a fairly well-known atheist. He's an entertainer, though. He's not a theologian or a counter-theologian, for that matter. So you kind of have to accept that he's the average Joe who uses what he has to the fullest of his ability. But you wouldn't bring him on stage to debate William Lane Craig, if you know what I mean.
Agreed. Agreed.
So that said, yeah, I think that's a very uh, intuitive thought process. That if you believe that people are rushing towards certain doom, and you have the ability to get in the way of that, you should. The problem, though, is not the Christian's humanity here in thinking that they should uh, rescue someone going towards certain death. It is the Christian's delusion that you are going towards certain death. That's the problem. So yes, in reality, if I'm about to step into to traffic and I'm not paying attention and you're standing next to me, you should reach out and grab my arm. Maybe I'm looking down on my iPhone or whatever. I'm not paying attention. Great. This happens to all of us at some point, and you're thankful for the person who says, "Hey, look out." But that is a real verifiable danger, as opposed to someone who is delusional, has a savior complex, has a misdiagnosis of the real world, and is constantly trying to save people from demons. This is so there is a difference there, and I'm not entirely sure um, how to separate that um, out any other way. One is a real danger that we can both verify, and the other is a danger only in the mind of one person.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying, and what it seems like to me is that you're kind of categorizing Christians in two ways. And you have the ones that will stand at the corner of the street on the beach and have signs that say you're going to hell and blah blah blah, and they're very forceful with it, versus people like me who are going to try to just show you love and live in, as an example, and uh, have these type of talks, engage in these type of conversations. But as far as you're saying, it's a delusion. I mean, the jury's still out. I mean, I believe Christianity is true. I don't think I'm delusional, but you might think I am. But I would
Well,
just
but
turn
it's
I would
this
just
is
turn
why.
that back on you and say that you're delusional for not believing. I
But
mean, so we're not
this
going to get
this
anywhere that
I'm
way.
trying
Yeah,
to choose my words carefully so that it doesn't. I'm not attempting a polemic right here.
I know, I know.
I'm actually trying to explain um, the
But am I?
difference.
Yeah, but am I right on the type of Christians you're talking about?
Well, I think so, but I think that when you categorize yourself the way you do, you're actually watering down your message a little bit. And so I I respect the Christians who are extremely evangelistic and upfront. Now, I don't respect their methods much, but I do respect the fact that they are driven to stop a person from walking in front of a bus,
Yeah.
um, as
I'm the
opposed
same
to,
way. I'm not saying that I'm not.
okay,
I'm the
if
same
it
way,
doesn't
but I
method,
just have a different methodology.
okay, so I mean, we could, I suppose it's up to
Yeah.
Christians to talk about what's the best method. But the difference, once again, is if there's a bus coming, I can look up and see the bus. Um, you've saved me. There's the bus. It went by. I see it. There's a bus. We agree. But if what you are doing is saving me from the fairy witch, I can't see that. I can't verify that danger. I think that that's something that is delusionally in your mind. Now you might say, "Oh no, it's real. It's real," and you may be convinced of that. And the best I can do is say, "Right on, brother," but I don't need you to save me from that.
Well, you might if it's true. I
But
mean, and this is comes down to the concept of is Christianity true, or is just because you can't necessarily identify a threat doesn't mean it's not there. I mean, it could be hidden in a box, a bomb or something, and the guy comes over because he saw somebody place it in the box and saves you from that. You might not be able to always see the threat that's right in front of you. So I mean, there's a lot to it, and we could go down so many different avenues. So I think it would be wise maybe to stick to the blog, because we'll go down several rabbit trails, man,
well, I
on
think that
this.
I think that this is where it's going to take us anyway, though.
Oh, all right.
So it's fine that you started there because I suspect we're going to end there. So I will yeah, let me just kind of tour through some of the major points that I make
Okay.
here, and we'll leave it to the commenters uh, to thresh out the parts that we missed or that we got wrong. Commenters, people who would like to be commenters, you can find the blog in the comment section at skepticsandseekers.squarespace.com, and just look for the post with the name of this podcast, Christianity, a Private Faith or a Public Crusade. And so the very first point is the Great Commission. This idea that Jesus, in his final words, sent out his disciples to the world and said, "Go and preach the gospel to every nation. He that believes and is baptized shall be saved. He that doesn't believe will be condemned." So we're talking Mark 16, 15, and 16. You can find other versions of this commission in the other
28.
gospels. Right. You
28.
just look for whatever the last chapter is of each gospel. You'll find some version of this commission. So this is the idea. First problem with the commission, and I'll just throw this out there. Um, I would argue that this commission is not intended for all Christians. So I don't actually think, even reading the literature, that you can say, oh, well, this is a general command that Jesus gave to all of his followers. This is a very specific command that Jesus gave to his special disciples who, among other things, had the power to raise dead people. These are the people who had walked with him for 3 years or 1 year, depending on which book you read. But these are the people who were a part of his inner circle and private and public ministry. So I would say that, first of all, the Christian has a fairly tall mountain to climb to then take that commission and say, well, that's for everybody. It's like the president giving the generals marching orders about war, and then every individual saying, okay, well, the president gave this order about war, so we should go do this. No, it wasn't for you. And so that would be the first thing that I would say. You got anything? You got any pushback
Yeah,
there?
I would totally disagree. I mean, you have Jesus praying for those that would come after the disciples, and after Thomas's confession, says, "Blessed are those that that will believe on the apostles' testimony." So, I mean, there's this idea of
Yeah, but he didn't.
disciples that make disciples. It's a theme that runs throughout the whole of Scripture and Acts. You can see it through the early Christians as far as
Less of them
having
would believe
sending
on the
out
apostles'
missionaries.
testimony, not continue to do this commission that I gave the
Well, the
apostles.
whole idea is disciples that make disciples. You can see that theme running out through Acts, with Paul and Timothy and Barnabas and John Mark. I mean, you could see. I don't think it's a very thing to glean from the Scripture at all. I mean, it's very set there. I mean, you see these deacons or people go out and some of them get martyred. I mean, Stephen got martyred in front of our in Jerusalem and was preaching the gospel. I mean, he was proselytizing. So, which if you haven't checked it out yet, check out Proselytize or Apostatize. I'm throwing a plug.
Uh,
Yeah. So I mean, yeah,
you could
I
say
think you
that
can see
Steve
the
was
theme there.
processed.
What's
Yeah,
that?
I would disagree. So I will let that be one of those things for the blog. In the same way that I would disagree when Christians look at the words of Jesus to his apostles and say, you can tell this mountain to get up and move, and it'll move. You can do even greater things than I. I don't think he was saying that to the general
Oh,
believer.
I
I think he was
agree.
saying
I
that very
think
specifically
yeah.
to his apostles.
I would agree. I would agree with stuff like that, and I think taken in its correct context, you can glean that. But I also think if you look at it in its context, and you can also glean that the whole idea was disciples that make disciples. I mean, there's a whole kingdom talk, his kingdom coming to earth, and that that would all entail disciple making and stuff like that. So that's just my opinion.
I am hearing a noise. Are you hearing a
You
noise?
heard my phone go off. It was a
Okay.
buzz. So
Yeah,
that was my
that's
fault, my friend. It's
all
not your
right.
condenser mic, I promise.
That's no idea. I hear noises in my head all
It
the
went
time.
off as I was running my mouth. So
I
as long as you
didn't
don't
know if it
answer
was a
the
danger I
voices
needed
back,
to warn you against. Aliens are coming. Duck and hide. I don't know.
you're just
Um,
possessed by interdimensional aliens, sir.
well, if it's only that. So yeah, I would actually start by saying I think this particular terrible commission doesn't apply to Christians, but I go ahead and make my argument the way the Christian makes their argument, as if it does apply. So it's a bit of a side note, and if I have any time this week, I'll be glad to engage anyone on that. But just know that I actually make my argument using the most common Christian perspective is that, oh no, this applies to everybody. Everybody's supposed to go out in the world and make disciples of every creature. So great. Um, I find that to be a particularly bad commission. I think that is it's kind of weaponizing your religious belief. Jesus didn't have to do that. If he wanted to make disciples of people, he could appear in a very convincing vision uh, to everybody in the world. He doesn't have to send humans out to do his dirty work any more than the God of the Old Testament had to send armies out to fight enemies. That's completely unnecessary. And so, an example that I use is when Jesus he sent out two crews. One was the 70, and another was the 72. And so if they're already thinking, wait a minute, I thought it was 70, and another saying, I thought it was 72, it was actually both. So when he sent them out with particular instructions. One of those instructions in particular was that you basically knock on doors. It was the ancient equivalent of telemarketing. You call every number in this area code and exchange. You knock on every door in this zip code. You just knock on doors, and the people who are going to be receptive to you, they would be receptive. You go in, you set up your headquarters there. But if you're rejected, you just knock on every door until you're rejected. You walk away from that town, you shake the dust off of your feet, and you keep on trucking. He didn't have to do that. That was completely unnecessary. He could have pointed the disciples. He could have made a way so that they could see the people who would be receptive. He could have, given them a second sight. People who would be receptive could, maybe have the appearance of a fish on their forehead. I don't know. He could have done any number of things rather than to weaponize people against other people in this fashion. And so I would say that just on the face of it, sending armies of people who are barely credible out to annoy everyone in the world about your message is a bad thing, especially when you have other options.
I'm laughing. This has nothing to do with your rant there. I promise. I figured out that the random chair in the back, the sofa, the nice brown sofa, wasn't a part of your backdrop. And because I was thinking, is like, why is David using a backdrop in which the brown chair is facing the opposite way of where he's facing? And I'm like, that's a bad backdrop. Why would he even have it? And then just randomly, as we were chastising us Christians, your brown couch just magically disappeared.
Yeah.
So I just kind of threw
I usually have a thing that I use as kind of a green screen in the background that I am simply not using right now. And so the software is doing way more work to try to create a big background.
Right on.
And
right
it's
on.
failing.
So yeah, that kind of occupied my thoughts there for a minute. But this comes down to a thing that and this seems to be a running theme with a lot of people I know, is God should have done this, God should have done that, God could have done this, God could have done that, but that's not the way he operated. And the way he operates, I mean, you can criticize it all you want. I don't think it's an actual mark against Christianity, because in my view, I like the way God does it because he involves me in the whole process. So I mean, it just goes, it's just preference at this point, and I don't think it's really, it's not a big deal for me. It's just,
but it's not really preference.
It might not be everybody's preference, but
right. But it involves everybody, and so you can say, my preference is to get up in your face and sing the national anthem. You don't get to have that preference. That's not a preference that you get to exercise, because your preference ends at about 2 feet from my face.
yeah.
So if you're in face punching distance, that's kind of, then I'm going to exercise one of my preferences when you're doing that.
There you go, and that could be a very consequence that, and the early church understood that. I mean, they got rocks thrown at them.
Right, but that's evil, though, to send people out this way,
Depends on
infringe on the rights of other people.
Well, I mean,
So once again, if God wanted to send this message to everybody, he could have done that, and he didn't need you to do it.
Okay, your point, he did do it that way though, and like you said, you might be able to fight me off or whatever. I don't know why you'd need to, but it's a lot different when you're going to somebody's door and you're knocking on the door and just, hey, I got good news about Christ. You shut the door in my face, I move on. It's totally voluntaristic. It's not infringing on your rights.
To answer the door to deal with your delusions.
Yeah, you don't even have to do that, man. We'll move on that way too. So I mean, you don't have to. The whole thing is, you don't have to listen
property,
to
no soliciting. I don't want you soliciting. and
I
you
agree.
see,
I wouldn't come to your house if you had that.
my whole zone around my is private property, no soliciting.
Well, and that's fine. And you know what? We are commanded to move on in that aspect. It's voluntaristic completely. Now, you're right. People abused that whole notion, and this is probably why we're sitting here today. Is because people have abused it, and they have gotten into people's face and tried to force it or cram it down their throats. I agree with that. But what I'm saying is that God involved us. I don't think there's. I mean, who knows why he did it that way? Who knows why he did it that way? I don't. I'm not. I don't have all the answers on that. But again, I mean, for as far as my preference goes, I mean, I think it's cool he involved us. But and if it's an urgent message that if God is real, if God is true, and Christianity's true, like Penn says, we should proselytize it.
Yeah,
And
but
I do think so.
let me just say there are lots of ways that he could have involved you without having you feel like you've got to go tackle being
Yeah, and we can
from a car that's not moving.
we can
Right.
we
So,
can speculate on that all day, but it does nothing for the argument of whether God is real or God exists, or
well, but
does it change the command? It doesn't change the
does
command
it does
to
whether
make
God is a
disciples.
dick. And so we can
If
say
you
he's
look at
real.
it that way, again, that's your opinion of God, but
But
I look at it
I'm
quite
just saying
differently.
I wouldn't even have to have that opinion of God if he had chosen another way. For instance, he could have said, here's what I need all of my followers to do. When you find someone who has entered your life and you care about this person, pray for them for 3 hours a day. Um, and I will intervene into their knowledge and understanding. And so you get to save them by your act of praying, but you don't have to approach them anyway. He could have worked it out that way, but instead there are millions of people running around the world um, trying to convert natives who have said keep out and getting themselves killed, martyred for a cause that is only in their mind that other people don't want. God didn't have to send people out that way.
Maybe he did. I mean, how do you know?
Okay, well,
How do you know
I
for
just
sure?
gave,
How do you
I
know
just
for sure? I mean, but
he could have.
but David, there's several counter examples to this. I don't have any off the top of my head, but uh, you know, I don't think we're in a position to truly know why he did it the way he did it, and the fact that he did do it the way he did it is up to preference. I think it is. I think it's a preferential thing. I mean, you don't like it, so you criticize it. I
I,
like it, so I promote it. So I mean, it's just, and we can go from there. And then not only that, but then there's that urgency. If this is the truth, and and this is what we're commanded to do, then we should do it. So I mean, it's just I don't know. I don't know where to go with that one.
well, okay, that's not much of an argument when we're assessing whether this commission is good or bad.
Oh,
Before we leave,
whoa! You want me to know if the commission's good? I do think it's good because of the price of salvation
which
and
once again, as I said, could have been spread some other way. But before we leave the
they
idea of commission, I just want to make sure you have all of the tools that you need for proper outrage. I think the part of the commission where he says those who believe will be saved, those who do not believe will be condemned, is itself psychologically just a nasty piece of work to arm a person with. Your message is so important that if people believe it, they will be saved, whatever saved means to them. And if someone rejects you, they're going to be damned. They're going to be condemned. This very idea that Jesus is working in the minds of his followers is that They have the message so accurately and they can present it so well that they can know whether a person is saved or lost by whether they believe it or don't believe it. That's bullshit.
Unless it's true.
No,
I mean,
there are
I
a
mean,
lot of as from someone
look,
who's been on that side.
if Jesus was who he said he was, and Jesus said to do this, and Jesus gave this commission to them because it's true, and the world needs a savior, then he's doing the right thing, and how he does it is how he does it, and
Okay, but
he tells them, hey, tell them, hey,
you're assuming that the person giving the message, and by the way, a person who's been on the other side, who has taught evangelism, who has done more door knocking campaigns than probably anyone listening to this podcast right now, and who's been more successful
combined because you're old.
anyone who's listening to this podcast. I can tell you right now, the vast majority of people who do this are bad at it. They don't know what they're doing. They don't have a good grasp of the message, and they don't deliver it well. And people are right to be skeptical of it. And so to somehow suggest that if you didn't believe the message I gave you, you're going to be condemned is bullshit, because the person giving the message is often giving it badly, saying things that are factually incorrect. A person does have a right to disbelieve them, and that is not a sign of condemnation. And for Jesus to send people out this way with this kind of assurance is absurd, and I would go as far as to say evil.
But I mean, you're missing a whole step here. Okay, so if Jesus sent the disciples in this way and told them to tell them that if they don't believe it, they're condemned. I mean, I don't think he's sending them out ill prepared. And just because the people these days, and like I said earlier about the scriptural literacy and all those problems, and I agreed with you that people do it badly, then I'm totally on your side here with people doing it badly. But if Jesus sends the disciples and says to tell them this, because I don't think they were ill prepared, then hey man, we're in disagreement there. And I don't think it's BS at that point. It's just
the
true.
reason why I say that this particular commission was given to the apostles specifically, and not to some generic everybody who reads this passage in the book. But let's move over from there. Once again, I'll be glad to engage anyone on the board who wants to take that up. I do try to keep up with the conversations on the board, even though I haven't had a lot of time to engage lately. But if you do want to engage with me, just start a new thread and call out this particular point or any other point. I'll see it. All of the messages come by my email. So let's move on from there. The door knockers and telemarkers is ridiculous. The idea of you never mentioned him to me. Russell, are you familiar with that song?
What's that? Which one?
You never mentioned him to me.
I did. I listened to it the day I read the blog.
Okay. Were you familiar with it before then?
I think I've heard it once or twice when I was in the Pentecostal movement.
Okay. I used to hear it just about every week. So, yeah, I think that this is one of the most passive aggressive, disgusting pieces of Christian work that has ever been produced. There will be a link in the blog for those of you who are just listening to this, and so if you want to hear the song, you can hear the song plus a few minutes of more passive aggressive poetry that's written before that. But the idea of this song and the point of this particular segment is it's a person who is on their way to hell. Maybe they're in hell, but what they're saying is, I wouldn't be here now if you, Mr. Christian, had taken the time to tell me about Jesus. Well, the reason I am here is because you never mentioned him to me. This is the idea of the song, and it's a part of the evangelical mentality. It's a part of that push that says, I have to do this, otherwise, these people are going to be lost. And, talk about a Messiah complex. Everyone you pass by potentially is someone who's going to go to hell because you didn't mention him to them. I mean, you didn't. Anyway, yeah. What do you got, Russell?
David, you're just blowing a lot of hot air today. You're
Are you
just going
kidding?
after everything. You know what? I don't like this. I don't like that. And it's crap.
This song is sang every week.
Okay, yeah, well, I know. Once you're hit over the head with a bat long enough, your eyes pop out, right? So, at least it did to Glenn in The Walking Dead. But,
Yeah.
um,
The-
I,
but
I
I'm
think,
there are a lot
there's
of, let me just explain.
okay.
There are a lot of people around the world who listen to this in other countries, and they think, man, that's not how Christianity is at all. That's not the Christianity that I grew up with. This is American evangelicalism. This
There's
is
a
this
lot
is
like
not
that. Yes,
something that I am inventing. I'm
yes, I do.
underselling it.
Yeah, but I think there's a justifier to it, and we're unlike your experience. Okay, um, I was in a very uh Pentecostal, movement that was very much kind of like what you're describing, and I only heard it once. I only heard that once. That whole song once. Of course, it wasn't sung by the same people, so it was done a little bit differently. Um, so I think there's a justifier there that you know this doesn't apply to potentially everybody you pass. There's obviously a relationship the guy had with the other guy in there, and the justifier is relationships are a part of evangelizing, and that's taught as well. And I'm sure because you probably taught that there you should develop relationships with people. Um,
I,
and
I
even if you agree
regret,
with my
regret
Christian,
for teaching anything like that.
you don't remember, and that this
No,
is
it's not that I don't remember.
different
It's
stuff.
that I regret ever using that kind of method.
Yeah. Okay. Well, at any rate, I think that there's some justifiers there, and I do think that there are that type of evangelism that is there to condemn the believer into running around and Bible thumping people, and we can agree that that's just a bad methodology. But as far as making friends, I mean, I'm all for making friends with atheists like yourself. Like you said, you'd give a kidney for me if I needed it. You probably change your mind in a couple weeks, but no, but no,
I
honestly, man,
still got two.
we're good. And I would do the same for you, man. If our blood types match, otherwise I want your body just to reject it. Then I lose a
Well, it
kidney
wouldn't
for no
match because you've
reason,
got the blood of Jesus running through your veins, so
I
I
do,
don't I
but
don't
you
know
know
if it's
what? But
compatible.
you know what? But you know what? Similar design, So we might. But anyways, uh, yeah, it's such a hard subject because there are caveats to it that people like you walk away with, or even people not like you walk away with that say, "Man, this stuff is forceful." They throw it down our throat. They've condemned the believer for not proselytizing enough. When to me, there's several methodologies to proselytizing your faith, and you have to know which one is going to work for that situation. It's very situational, and I think that's the way to do it is you have to engage each situation how you and you have to basically gauge each situation as necessary to if that's what you're going for.
So
But so
sure,
I maybe I'm not
let's just
explaining it right. I'm tired. So.
no, that's fine. Let's just diverge for a moment from the blog and talk about proselytation
Sure.
methods.
Proselytize.
Um, there you go. Um,
We're both tired.
yeah, we are. So uh, let's start with the one that you mentioned, the relationship uh, method. Go out and make friends Friends for Jesus. This is, in fact, my least favorite method. And the reason is because it's just dishonest at the heart of it. Um, you're not making friends.
Absolutely not.
What you're doing is you're softening a person up for the sales pitch.
Oh
Uh,
no way, no way. Because even if the sales pitch is rejected, I'm not going to walk away from you. As a matter of fact, I'd go and fight behind you in most situations. That's just that's not true.
no, it may not be true in every situation, but I'm telling you, this is how it's taught.
Some
Um,
people, yeah, I would
it,
agree.
it's the whole point of making the friend is for the sales pitch. Now, it's not to say that if they reject the sales pitch, you should dump the friendship, because the hope is that over time, you'll still win them over. It's still the pitch. It's the catalyst behind the friendship. Um, when an atheist makes a friend, and by the way, the idea of making a friend, and this just could be my problem. I don't even know what that means. So I've got nothing to do today, and I'm thinking, I think I will make me a friend today. I don't. Is this a thought process that anyone actually goes through? Friends
I
are
don't think
usually a
so.
kind of a yeah. I don't either. It's a kind of an organic
Yeah.
thing. You're at the bar next to another person, you're watching the game, and you're cheering for the same team, and you notice them there every week when you go to watch the game, and you start talking, and you realize, oh yeah, we vote for the same person, we like the same cars. You have over time accidentally made a friend. You've organically made a friend. But the difference between that in the make a friend for Jesus category is you are going out to create a situation whereby you can insert yourself into the life of another person with the express purpose of making a sales pitch. And
Or
that's
for
the
the
thing
express
that I do not
person,
like.
or an express purpose to bring them into eternal life if it's true. So I mean, it's just
Oh, but
uh
that's
but here's the
okay.
thing. But here's the thing.
That's not honest. That's not an honest
No,
friend.
you're okay. You're right on. There's different methodologies and there's different ways to make friends. Okay. Uh, and there are people that do have that particular goal to insert themselves into somebody's life and to make a sales pitch. But again, that doesn't cover the I mean, you can't broad brush it that way because it doesn't happen like that all the time.
No, it doesn't happen like that all the time. I'm just saying
We're
that
commanded to love our neighbor.
there-
Yeah. There
there's
is
a
that. There is that.
particular. Okay, all right, that's fine.
That does happen. That does happen. Absolutely. There's no denying that Christianity throughout the years has done wrong in how it proselytizes. We're in agreement on that. Whether it's unprepared evangelists or bad evangelists, just straight up, I've seen, and I'll criticize my own side here. I have seen people that will just go through the motions of having a relationship, just like kind of like you described for a sales pitch, and their intent, it's like they have this air of entitlement or this air of superiority in how they're doing it, and I never, it's fake to me. But for me, and I don't know about you, David, but I can spot those things a mile off. You
Oh
know,
yeah,
if my goal is to, if I'm going to be in a relationship with somebody, I want to get to know them too. It's not just so we could talk about God somewhere down the road. I hope that they can see that, and I hope that conversation comes up. But I'm also going to make a friend because I generally do love my neighbor, and I do want to you know be a part of their life if I can
and
be.
I'm all for that. In fact, I will say something that's not ranty, um, which is your method of proselytizing via podcast is a good method. I'm fine with that. I think that's great. have a place on the internet, and you have ways for people to find you, and they find you, and they can listen to you or not. This is the same way with skeptics and seekers. I don't, for instance, I don't go to Christian forums and then drop links to skeptics and seekers. I don't do that. Now, some of my skeptics and seekers audience might, but I don't do that. I'm not. I'm not.
I've gone to different forums to try to recruit people to come onto the show.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. That's no, but I'm just saying I don't interactively go to someone else's place and try to spread my message there. The internet has given us options that maybe didn't exist in the first century. And I think that what you and I do with our respective podcast efforts and our blogs and things like that are perfectly fine. I have no problem with Christians doing that. But I think that if they confined it to that, they would lose, which is why they don't confine it to that.
Yeah, and I don't think they should either. I think there's other ways to do things, other ways to reach other people. Some people like us, they watch our shows. That's how they get their ideas. That's how they best learn. There's just so much to it. I think going door to door, somebody that knows how to evangelize, that it was taught right, that doesn't do it bad. Okay.
Yeah, but I think the very method is bad. I think it's bad.
Of course you do. I know. I'm not a huge fan of the method, but I'm not against it either.
I was a professional salesman, and every manner of sales, and door to door was one of the sales I've done. It was bad when I did it.
Still a salesman? Well, skeptics and seekers, you are. No, I'm just joking.
No, I'm not selling anything.
Yeah, you're selling nothing. Literally nothing.
I am sure my agent, if I had one, would be bunking me on the head for this. But no, I have not monetized anything yet. But yeah, look, when the numbers get to a certain point, you are going to see the skeptics and seekers hoodies, folks.
There you
go. But yeah, I think that door to door is an inherently bad method. It's not a matter of whether you do it well or not. It's a matter of whether you do it at all. Another form of sales that I would say is inherently bad is telemarketing. And I think that door-to-door and telemarketing are very similar, but you can do even more harm with telemarketing. You can reach more people. I think these are inherently bad things. Now, let me just say, I was an outstanding telemarketer when I did it, but it was bad when I did it. It's one of the reasons I stopped doing it. I just couldn't live with it anymore. I'll tell you about that one day in private, maybe. But I walked away from that when I was at the top of my field. So, I think that there are inherently bad ways of doing it. And I think that evangelism, in the vast majority of ways that you can think about doing it, never mind the skill of the evangelist, the idea of doing it and the methods chosen to do it are bad themselves. And Jesus sending his people out in this way, and with this idea of, if they listen to you and are baptized or saved, and if they don't, they're condemned, is a very anti-human, very terrible idea. And it's hard for me to get past that. But once again, if
I'm sorry you feel that way, my friend.
The things that you do, for instance, that I know that you do, who knows, maybe you're a rabid door knocker. But as far as your efforts online,
I knock on doors in the middle of the night and run away and hide.
Well, that's okay, because you're not spreading a message. You're just a nuisance. So
I'm leaving chick tracks for tips.
No, let's not even talk about chick tracks. So we've gone over a lot of this. There's some reasons why Christians have to be evangelistic. Once again, I'm not going to go over everything. Read the blog. I'll argue with people in the comments if they want to. The threat of hell. We talked about this a little bit, but I just wanted to come back to it for a moment. There's all kinds of debate on hell. Last season we did a hell show. Three Christians discuss hell. You were one of those Christians in that show. We had you, Dale, and Chris Date. Are you frozen?
No,
Oh,
nope. I was just reading your blog. See, I got your blog set up right here next to me, so I can look
you were
into it as well.
in this pose right here for a good 20 seconds, and I just
Oh yeah.
yeah.
My fingers were working though. They were
Oh.
proselytizing your. No, I'm just kidding.
So we
I'm
had a
gonna stop
discussion
there.
on hell. It's a very important discussion for both Christians and non-Christians. It's not the conversation that we're going to have today, but it's a part of this idea uh, of Christians being on a crusade. And evangelical Christians in America, they are not ambivalent about this. Hell is a place of conscious torment involving fire and brimstone, which is the second death. And that is what they are trying to save you from. They're not trying to save you from annihilation. They're not trying to save you from the misery that you will cause yourself. You're with a door locked from the inside. They're trying to save you from the eternal flames of perdition. Um, so this is a part of what drives the evangelical. You say that you would never allow a person to, step out in front of a bus if you could help it. Hell is the bus for the people, largely for the people walking around in this country who are evangelical. And this is one of the reasons I said up front, look, I appreciate the fact that you are afraid of hell, but that's your problem. I do not believe in your hell. I do not need your salvation. I do not want your salvation from this thing that is in your mind. Um, so you're a Christian. What can I say to Christians to make them stop saving me from their delusion? Even you think it's a delusion.
I think it's a delusion.
Yeah, the flaming eternal conscious torture.
I'm not an annihilationist. I believe in ETC. I was just closer to Dale, remember?
Right, I remember that, but
Yeah.
you didn't believe hell. What you thought that there was some other version of hell where it's not.
You mean like what they say is I believe in hell and it's hot type thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah, no,
It's
I think
real
it's
hell.
I think it's real hell. No. When it comes to the ECT view, the eternal conscious torment view, I do take more of the C.S. Lewis approach to it.
Right. Well,
What can you say to Chris first in your talking point there? There is an aspect to it that if it's true, the Christian believes, even if you don't know that even if you don't want it or whatever, at least let you know about it, and I don't have a problem with letting you know. However, I do have a problem if I'm holding a knife to your throat and saying if you don't accept it, then this. And that's where I would step in and say, no,
when I
this is
walk
not the
down the
right way.
street, do I have to run the gauntlet of every Christian?
I don't think you should have to. I think it should
Do I
be a
need a
voluntary
t-shirt?
thing.
Is
If
there
somebody,
a t-shirt that I can wear saying Christians, I don't believe in your hell, leave me the fuck alone? Where do I buy a t-shirt? Is there a
You could.
symbol? Is there an upside down cross? What do I
Yeah, but you're
do?
probably going to invite people to try to debate you, and I think you would be
This is
trying.
what I mean. You
I
can't.
think
You
you're going
can't
to.
shut up.
Here's the thing. I don't know where you're. I don't know where you're at on this. This doesn't happen to me. I can walk down the street and I don't hear anything about religion. I can go all day at work without hearing anything about religion. I can go to any social events and not hear anything about religion. I don't know what you're talking about here. So I mean, maybe your experience is different than mine.
Could be. I
Um, I
suspect it is. In fact,
I think
half
maybe
of the
you're
people
haunted by your demon's past, and you're just seeing it everywhere like a paranoid schizo.
well, I do see it. I do see it everywhere, and so I do know what to look for. But usually, when people come to me and start talking to me about religion, is what I'm talking about.
Well,
Now,
you have the beautiful right. You have the beautiful right
Islam.
in this country, David, to just say, "Shut up. I don't want to hear it," and walk away.
I get a lot of Muslims as well as Christians. Now, I've never had a Jewish proselytizer.
Yeah, well, they don't proselytize, so
Never had a Hindu proselytizer.
oh, I've talked
Never
to Hindus before. That's fun.
never had a Buddhist proselytizer.
Yes, they're more atheistic anyway.
Well, I'm just saying that the only two groups I have had proselytize are Christians and Muslims. And if you're the kind of Christian who says, well, Mormons aren't Christians, then Mormons. And then if you're the kind of Christian that says, oh, Jehovah's Witnesses aren't Christians, then Jehovah's Witnesses. These are the people who are uh, most likely to do it. And once again, though, if what you're saying is, well, everybody has the right to try to save you from their danger. All kinds of people have all kinds of delusions about the dangers I'm in. And I do not want to have to walk down the street and have to fend off everyone from trying to save me from their imaginary danger.
Yeah, and I walk down the street and that doesn't happen.
Okay,
Matter
but
of fact,
because it
matter of
doesn't happen
fact,
to you, then it doesn't matter.
even when it no, I'm not saying it matters or not. Like I said, I don't know what your experience is, and I don't know who's actually.
You.
Are you serious that you walk down the street every day and people are accosting you about religion?
Well, first of all, I don't walk down the street every day, but
Or whenever you do?
it does happen about once or twice a month.
Oh, well, it doesn't happen to me like that.
Sometimes it's fairly aggressive, but yeah, it happens about once or twice a month.
Yeah, and I work in the city, so I mean, I don't see that much. Every once in a while I'll get the Mormon that comes to the house, but that's about it, bud. And that shoot, they stopped coming to my house. But yeah, I just don't know, man. Maybe I don't know, bud. I don't think that.
You're saying, well, it doesn't happen to me, so yeah, no big.
But see, here's the thing, though, is you have the beauty and the right in this country to just say, okay, I don't want to deal with you. You don't have to fend them off. You don't have to even talk to me. Just walk away. They can't. If they start following you, then you got different issues.
I don't want that interaction, David.
At all. You don't want it at all.
I don't want people trying to save me from imaginary dangers or getting me a relationship with their imaginary friends.
Well, then you can live in a country that doesn't have free speech. I don't know.
Well, I don't, I don't, we can talk about whether free speech means that anytime you're out and about or at your home, you're.
You know what I mean, David. I'm being facetious here. I'm being facetious.
But
you're not going to run around. You're not.
You're speaking from the perspective of the side that does this, that perpetuates this. And so for you, it's no big deal.
It wasn't even a big deal when I wasn't a Christian. I just didn't. I didn't look at it this way. If someone believed something and they believed it, that was their thing. And if they wanted to talk to me about it, sure, let's talk about it. And a lot of times we disagree and we just walk away from the argument. Or we'd have our own views and learn from each other. I don't have a problem with people views. I welcome it. I welcome any conversation that somebody brings to me, even if I don't buy it. Man, you know what? One of the main things me and my coworkers talk about at work: aliens, whether aliens exist. That is it, man. We talk about that and we'll debate that almost all day. Whether we're calling each other and joking about it, but I welcome conversations. I've never minded it. I guess that's just the type of person I am. I'm the type of person that welcomes those type of things.
Yeah,
Maybe it's just maybe it's a
I know,
personality thing.
I know people who like to get telemarketing calls. That doesn't mean that it's good.
I don't know anybody
So
that likes to get telemarketing
I,
calls,
I
and they
do.
should be jailed. So you know,
So
I'm just joking.
but we will. I'm going to skip martyrdom. Read the blog. I do want to touch base with control. One of the reasons that Christianity cannot be a private faith is because what Christians want is control. And I mention this in just about every podcast because it continues to be true. And I keep waiting for someone on the boards to engage me, and they simply refuse to do it. So I will say it again and put the bait out yet again. Uh, Christians need to have control. The entire debate on marriage is not about what is absolutely true about marriage. It's about who gets to say what is true about marriage. What Christians want is the control to say that this is marriage and then that everyone else has to abide by this rule of marriage. Um, it's all about control, and Christians simply can't do that. The debate on abortion, I am fairly convinced, having been on the side of anti abortion myself, is not purely about saving lives. It's about defining what life is and where it begins. And that's what Christians want. They want the right to do that and then make everyone else adhere to that standard. So again, Christians cannot have a private faith because what they actually want is public control.
Totally disagree, but I don't have anything prepared on that note.
No
And I
one
don't
ever
want to
does.
misspeak, but my thoughts, my general thoughts are, Christianity had nothing to gain by proselytizing the faith early on. Okay, you do get corrupt issues when church and state are mixed. Um, and there's a lot of issues concerning the role worldview plays in politics and stuff like that. But, um, buddy, I mean that's a deep subject that we could probably spend another 2 hours on, and I just
Yeah.
don't simply have the preparation or the mind frame right now to get into the
Well, like I
areas of
said, I'm
politics.
dropping
Do you
it.
think
I'm
the
dropping it in
abortion?
there. It's comment
Do you
bait.
think do you think the
So
abortion is it, you looked at it and it's Christians trying to wanting to define life. I just think we're trying to define where life actually begins, and I think it's important because we've seen uh the travesties that happen when people start uh dehumanizing people and not basing rights solely off the idea of their humanity. So we would have to jump into a long rabbit trail down there to even flesh that out. So, anyways,
sure,
and then
and
we have to then not only that, we'd have to divide it up on the aspect of, okay, why is the government involved in things, let's say like marriage at all? Do they have a vested interest
why is
in
the church
marriage?
involved with
Or
marriage?
or or well, it depends on what you believe about marriage. I mean, it comes
Marriage
from
is
a
legal,
world, right? So
right?
we're
So
talking
marriage is a legal contract. That's why the state's involved with it. Why is the church involved with it?
well, I mean, they say it's a state. Does it need to be involved with it at all? Should it be involved with it all? Does it have a vested interest? What does it have a vested interest in when it
Ask
comes
ask
to
ask all of those things about Christians, my friend.
you can
And
say
this
the
is
same
this is
thing?
this is the idea. Well, but I'm not in a religious state.
Well,
I'm in a secular state, and so religionists actually have no
yeah, but
say.
you do know that worldview it pretty much defines people's politics and what they think is right and wrong, and the laws they make concerning those things. If you really think that your state is devoid of any religious worldview or values that have been pumped in it, then you're incredibly naive, my friend.
No, but I'm saying that it shouldn't be. And if what you're saying
Why?
is, well,
Why? Why shouldn't it
Christians
be?
get, why
Why
shouldn't it
shouldn't
be?
it be? Yeah, why?
Christians don't get to. This is exactly what I mean.
No,
What
I just want to know. I just want to know.
What you want is control in areas that you don't get to control. You want to control me, not a Christian,
Why do
with
I want to
your
control you, Dave?
beliefs. And the
Why
way
do
to
I
do that is to control the state.
Why do I want to control? I don't want to control you, but I don't want you
Yes, you
going
do.
around and murdering people. I think I need laws to protect the society, right?
Well, I
Protect
think
life, right?
I think that we need secular laws
Why?
we're a secular government.
Then
Anything
whose
let,
then whose
let,
worldview is going to
anything other than a
determine
secular law
whose
is a
worldview is
theocracy.
going to determine those secular laws? Whose worldview? Whose worldview is going to determine what those secular laws are going to be?
Not Christian worldviews.
Not Christians. Okay,
Not
so
religion.
should we
Not
do
religion.
Sharia?
Uh,
Should we do Stalinistic
not
atheism?
religion. Not religion. You just keep naming religions. Not religion. You know what secular means? Secular means not religious. That's what it
Okay.
means.
Okay, so we go
Okay.
atheistic and have a style another style.
Secular
A
doesn't even
Mao?
mean secular doesn't even mean atheistic. It means not religious.
Yeah, and if we
And
stick
you
to
are
your
railing
definition, if we stick to your definition of atheist,
look it up right now.
if we stick to your definition of atheist, then
Look it up.
okay. So David, why is nothing better than something in
Wait a
that
minute.
aspect?
Wait a minute. Let's stay right here. Secular means not religious. Look it up if you don't believe me.
So
you can
what?
right now.
No, I'm teasing you on the aspect of that. Your whole idea of atheist is nothing. So that's why I say a lack of belief or whatever. And I'm kind of applying that to secular in a joking way.
I'm not going to chase a red herring. I am saying that if you are railing against secular government, secular laws ruling a secular government, what you are asking for, what you are demanding is a theocracy, and you want a theocracy without having to say it outright. If you don't want a theocracy, then you want secular laws and a secular government, period. There is no ground for fudging.
You're such a black and white type of guy, man. It's either this way or that way for David.
No.
I don't think that's true at all.
Gray here. No, this is the definition of words. Secular. It means not religious. It means religious. Not religious.
But what I'm telling you is you're not going to be able to divide. You're not going to have that in a pure sense. There's no way. Because somebody's going to rule or make laws based off their value system. And their value system is going to come from, in a lot of ways, religious.
Control. This is exactly what I have been saying. This is what we're at.
But it's not. It's people trying to live in a civilization in accordance to their values.
Establish a law that applies to me.
What's that?
You want to establish law that applies to me based on your religion.
So do you. You want to do the same exact thing based on your non-religion.
Yes, but I have a right.
Value system.
I have a right to do that because I am secular in a secular government.
So
you not have a right to do that.
So you can have your cake and eat it, but you can't have our cake and eat it. Okay.
No, my cake is secular. That's my cake.
But David, what you're saying is, what I'm telling you is that no matter what system you're going to have somebody else's worldview imposing it on somebody else. And it's not, it's at this point, it's your ideas of laws versus my idea of laws. And you're just, I don't get it. Go ahead. I'll let you explain.
In a secular society, we also have a thing called pluralism. So I understand secular, pluralist. When you put those things together, you have a lot of complexity. But at the end of the day, secular is first. And so we might have Muslims and Jews and Christians. The reason, and atheists, the reason the secular part is so important is that we do not, in fact, make laws that favor the Jews or the Muslims or the Christians. We remove those things to the best that we can and form laws that are not religious in nature. And all of the people who are religious can participate in that. We don't make laws that are Christian in nature and then try to make all of the people participate in that. That goes against the very idea of secularity. So I am not trying to make Christians not participate in government per se and in society. We want Christians in society in the same way we want devil worshippers in society. But we are not going to make laws that favor. We're not going to allow devil worshippers to make laws based on the Book of Baphomet. We're going to make laws that are secular that everyone can live around. It is non-religious, and religious people are welcome in that society. But the moment you start making laws based on one of those religions, you don't have a secular society anymore.
Okay. A lot of that I agree with, but there's also the aspect of your whole line of morality is going to be reflected off of some sort of worldview that you believe in. So it's coming from somewhere. The ontology of the law could very may well be religious. So I don't know, man. Its very nature could be religious in some way. I just don't think you can escape it. And I think that's why you added the caveat, the best we can. And I think that's what we're doing the best we can. Overall, I think Christianity here, in the aspect of being a public faith, the best we can is to allow people to talk about their ideas freely in a free society. And if you don't want to listen to it, just like in the scriptures, you have the opportunity to say no. I don't accept it.
I think there are ways to talk about ideas in a free
I
society
agree. I agree.
that are not invasive and that become personal sales. And I think that there are ways to argue for one's position in the public arena without trying to impose religion on secularity. So, for instance, when a Christian lawmaker says marriage should be between one man and one woman because that's what the Bible says, they have stepped beyond and outside of secularity. That is not a secular idea. And if you cannot make your case in a secular way for the secular government, then you are not, in fact, participating in good faith. What you are doing is trying to impose some part of a theocracy on this secular government. Because if you're making laws that say everyone should make this law because that's what my God wants, and I am representative of my God, you're not secular anymore. And I would argue that Christians have abandoned any pretense of secularity. What they want is control.
I disagree. I agree that there are people that are like that. Absolutely. If that wasn't the case, I don't think we would have had what happened in Europe over the Dark Ages, and Renaissance and the Inquisition. But yeah, I would have to agree that there are several Christians that are like that, but there are several that aren't. And if you really want to know what Christianity should look like, you have to go back to the source, and see what it actually looks like, what it is, and go from there.
Well, in the Bible, I don't recall any push for Christians to try to change the politics of the day and to say that men cannot marry men. For instance, I don't recall that being.
Why are you on the marriage issue?
Because it's the most obvious, because it's the easiest. I could probably talk about 10 different issues, but that one's easy. It's writ large in big neon letters. There's no need of ignoring the 800-pound gorilla.
Okay. What else?
So that's why I talk about it.
There are Christians. I agree. There are Christians that want to control. There's Christians that don't want control and don't want to control your life. I don't want to control your life. I want you to live the way you want to live. So
maybe that's why we get along so well.
We do. You're my buddy. But I mean, of course, we're going to disagree on a lot of things, but
I don't care. I don't care about the
I don't,
disagreements, though. I'm fine with that.
I don't think Christianity in general, I don't think people want to control other people's lives in general, but there are those that do. I mean, I've seen it, so I can't disagree with it. So there are Christians that are like that, Christians that aren't. So it's a mixed bag.
Yeah.
It's got a little plurality in that regard.
Well, yeah. Look, plurality is another one of those things that I find problematic, just because it's really hard for a lot of people to share the same space who who fundamentally believe different things about the world. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be plural. I think that we have no choice but to be plural. It is our nature. Um, you and I are not the same. We have to share the same space. We have to figure out and compromise on how to do that. But I'm just saying, plurality is a very difficult thing to manage. And what America, their solution for managing plurality is secularity, which is to say, all of these competing religions that were warring in Europe. Here's how we're going to solve that. Screw your religions. We're not going to make laws based on that. And to the extent that we can do that and manage to do that, to the extent that we can say we're going to put the Constitution as the guiding North Star instead of the Bible, to the extent that we can say we're going to put a president and a Supreme Court in the rule of lawmaker as opposed to Jesus. This is how we're going to manage that. It doesn't mean that you can't individually uphold your Bible and worship Jesus, but we don't have a king here, and we have a constitution, not a holy writ.
Okay. For the most part, I would agree with that. I do think that there's a lot more on the state level that you miss there, as far as uh, overall they wanted states to be able to choose what value systems and stuff like that they had. I mean, the letter to the Danbury Baptist was clear on what the idea of separation of church and state actually was supposed to be meant for. Especially a lot different than what it is today, but that's the result of change and growth. I don't know what you want me to comment on that.
No,
But
look,
I don't know.
I don't want to talk about politics.
Yeah, me either.
It ends up getting there, though, once again, because of the point that I do think that Christians won't control. But ultimately, I think the bigger point is that the reason Christians won't control, underlying all of this, is back to where we started in the beginning, and so it's just as good a place to end. It's because the Christians have it's not a world view that I'm talking about as much as a view of reality that is very particular, and it is idiosyncratic, and one that does not comport with the reality of people who don't buy that belief system. And so, Christians believe, for instance, that there's a spiritual war going on. There is no spiritual war. This is your fantasy. They believe that there are demons controlling things. I do not care that they believe in a fantasy, not even a science fiction, a fantasy kind of invisible underworld that overlays the current world, and they are acting as agents in this invisible universe. And for that person to have anything to say to me about reality, it's a little offensive. And the last thing I want is for a politician to make laws based on this fantasy of this underworld, this overlay of a universe that they believe is true and that I do not. And so, how do we deal with that divide? I do not know. I think actually, from our body politic to just individual interactions, I think it's getting harder, not easier. I think we're drifting further apart as a people, not closer. And the thing that that divides us, that pushes Christians further and further toward this place of what I would consider non-reality. Are these underlying ideas of what reality is and how it differs from it. And once again, people from other countries, you will have a different view on this. I understand that. But in America, we are in what I would consider a cold civil war. Um, and and it gets worse every day. And this is part of what's causing it.
Yeah.
And consider that my final.
That's your closing statement.
That's my close. That's it.
Right on. I mean, I don't have too much. You said a cold civil war. I mean, that's an interesting idea. I don't know. I think the nation is divided right now. How do we deal with this idea? I mean, it's going to come to the guy that you're talking about, the Christian that believes this and that. You don't think it's reality. I mean, he's not going to buy your opinion of reality either. So it's just as ridiculous. How do we come and find common ground? Like you said, you don't know. I I don't have 100% answers on that either. I mean, it's still working. Even if we disagree, we're still here, and the country's still running, even though we have had a pandemic. We've gone through terrorist attacks, a civil war, a revolutionary war that began it all. I mean, and we're still here. It's an experiment. The American experiment is still going on, and I think it's going to continue to go on as long as people like me and David, who have a totally opposite view of reality, can get and talk about issues, and at the end of the day, still be friends.
Yeah. Well, thank God for the internet,
Right. It's a good platform.
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe it'll be our salvation one day. So at any rate, thanks guys. Next week we'll talk about something else. And in the meantime, we'll carry this on in the comments.
We good?
We're good.
All right.
All I have to do is figure out how to stop. I think it was right.